5:30. We do have a quorum. Thank you, guys. So you guys know, as of, I don't know exactly when, we have to have an in-person quorum. We can't rely on Zoom. So it's a canvas each time we pick a date, and these guys came through for us. So definitely appreciate that. Geo did post the meeting notice legally, so because we are under Open Meetings Act. So that has happened. I have approval of minutes on the agenda, and I did not bring minutes. So we're actually going to table that, if that's okay with you. We'll do that by acclamation, all those nods. And so next time I'll bring 2 sets. Because the main thing that we're trying to move forward is this question about noise ordinance. And so for you guys, Chief Lasoya and several venues and I and Scott Wasserman, for other reasons, had a discussion about the draft noise ordinance that you were there when we first talked about it, well over a year ago. It sort of died out, and then the city manager asked us to pull it up again and to try and carry it forward, so we actually have something on the books. And so so everyone knows, the main concern, as I understand it, is that Alpine's noise procedures are complaint-based and not evidence-based. And so the police don't have a lot of leeway. If there's enough complaints on an event, no matter how loud it is or quiet it is, they got to shut it down. Yes. As I understand, more or less. Yes. And so what we're trying to do is determine a process where that's decibel based. It's actually based on a noise level, and that way a venue can have a reasonable music experience for their customers and know ahead of time. They can have their own decibel meter, and they can know that it's legal and that they're okay. Even if people complain, the police will address that complaint, and they might come talk to the venue, but you'll already know you're okay. So that's the idea, is that everybody knows the deal. One thing that we brought up at that conversation was the concept in this draft. There's a definition of an outdoor music venue that is exempt from all noise limits, which didn't make a lot of sense. And so we talked about the concept of not just an outdoor music venue, but defining an official City of Alpine music venue that can serve 2 purposes. One, ideally, it will get that music venue some consideration in the ordinance that maybe another business wouldn't have, but it also has a promotional, hopefully, benefit as well that we can use as part of our music-friendly program. And so, as I understand it, then the 2 things we kind of need to define are, one, what actually are the noise levels that feel like a good balance between residents who weren't asking to listen to music and the businesses, but particularly the patrons of that business, because we got 2 people who both want to have a good time, maybe for different reasons. And so we want to take care of both of them. And so, Chief, please do. So where we left it is you guys were going to do a little research on how loud things actually are.
So my wife loves Funky Mongols. So we went over to Crystal Bar and we went to watch them, and there with Amy. And so Funky Mongols was hitting between 85 and 90 decibels.
And where?
And this was inside the venue itself.
Okay.
And so, and like we talked in our not very formal meeting, Alpine is a fishbowl. Everything is just so much louder. And so during that time, we had 2 complaints. One of them was I wish I brought it with me. One of them was over on East Avenue B, over by the university. And the other one was on, I'd say the 100 block of Lockhart. And basically what I had the officers do to go to the complainants area and not really to talk to them about it, but make a recording of it. And I think one of the times the person that was talking on the microphone or yelling on the microphone, he could be clearly heard from the officer at that location. And so, so I think a lot has to do with the demographics of our community, the way it's made. And so I think that's one thing that could put into consideration. And during this time, I've also done some research. I've always considered, I've been vacationing a lot in Fredericksburg. And so I kind of use them as a baseline. I mean, if you go to Fredericksburg, there's so many venues outside. And so I was like, there has to be some type of ordinance. And sure enough, they have one. And theirs is pretty strict. And I don't think we need to be that strict, but I think it's something to basically to guide us, to help us. And so one of the sound levels, okay, so Texas law under the penal code, 85 decibels is what they use, all right?
And that's
So-
for like public disturbance?
Disorderly conduct, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so 85 decibels during daytime hours is totally fine, okay? 75 decibels during evening hours, and there's more definitions into the hours and everything else that we can discuss later. During evening hours, commercial or evening hours, residential as applicable. 65 decibels during nighttime hours for commercials. And that's within a range of 50 feet of the establishment or residence.
So it's not at point of sound, it's at 50
Yes,
foot.
right. And there's a lot of definitions, and so I kind of like theirs, but I just think we need to tweak it a little bit to fit us. And just to explain the nighttime hours, nighttime hours are from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. And so one of the things I was thinking, well, if the American Legion or the Crystal or whatever venue wants to have an outdoor concert until later hours, maybe that's something that we could have approved by the city manager or through the council one way or to.
Well, how does, like, somebody wants to close the street, have a parade, they just go to you, right?
Yes.
So it could conceivably even be
Yes.
that.
Yes.
But in that instance, every time they have a show, they have to come and get
If
approved for each show.
it's after 11 p.m.
And
Right.
does that include weekends or is it
Yes.
just weekdays?
That includes
And
weekends.
in our current draft, I think we went to at least to midnight on weekends.
And like
Yeah,
I
so
said,
we
that's
might
something that
wanna-
we could tweak
yeah.
with, and
Now, that's another thing too, that we may be able to have, like, that's our baseline, but for an official Alpine music venue, then we define it more around the expected, event.
so like if there's a
Yeah.
Viva Big Bend going on in Alpine, do we make a whole permit for the whole community? Or just commercial area? So.
Right, an event permit across the board. Because see, one thing that I would prefer, and I'm sure you guys would, that we have the minimum number of permits you have to pull in the course of doing normal business.
Right.
And so, like on a weeknight, because you guys do the picking circles, few too many, and I know you guys the place is closed in, there's no noise issue at all,
That,
but,
that depends. If I've
Event?
got the bay door open, I've got the garage door open. I
okay.
have the front door open.
Gotcha. So, what are like weeknight music hours for you guys?
Ours are gonna be different than what Amy's are gonna be or what Lou's are gonna be, because we have guests sleeping upstairs.
Right?
So I don't want for the other venues to be tied into what we're doing.
Okay, that's
Because
fair.
we're not doing that specifically because of the noise ordinance. We're doing that because we have guests sleeping above the music.
Yeah,
So.
but just as one point of example.
Midnight is our latest on music, for live music. And then
Okay.
we pipe music in, but we
Gotcha.
turn it down.
And how often do you guys do weeknight shows?
We don't do weeknights.
Okay,
No, it's usually, it's only weekends, and we try to bring someone in at least once a month, and the band only plays until 1 a.m. because
okay.
that gives them time to pack up, get out, and
Y'all gotta get bar tabs closed.
and get all that
too.
done too.
Mhm.
So it's sometimes one is very late, like if the crowd's just come on, play one more kind of thing. But the majority of the time is between 12 and 1.
Okay.
I mean,
And,
we're not playing until 2 a.m. by any means.
last time you guys played the blues, when did you turn off? Well, when did the show end? Last time you played the blues?
Viva Big Ben will be like 1:45.
Yeah.
1:30,
Like
1:45.
standard show, you just were playing, not
Yeah,
not a
that-
festival.
I mean, we'd
About the
shut
same.
down at 1:30, 1:45.
Okay,
But being inside, I mean, that could be a delineating thing, outside stage versus inside stage. If you want to have a loud outside show, we could do it earlier in the evening and
Yeah, and like if there's something going on Fifth Street for Art Walk and
yeah,
it's on Fifth Street, yeah.
and Fifth Street shuts down at midnight.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much for Art Walk, right?
they're done by, well, yeah, for the music.
Yeah, like the last
Yeah.
band plays 10 to 12 or 10 to 11:30 maybe.
And those one-offs, I mean, that's no big deal. You're doing one a year. That, you're getting a permit to close the street anyway. That's not a problem. My main concern is that if I would not like for our venues to have to go pull a permit once a month,
Right.
Yeah.
that feels like a burden. So
All week long.
So can we just get a designation if we're an
that
established?
would be my preference, but then we still have to, we have to settle on that, like, what's that measurement and that the level and distance? Because we still have to come up with something that's fair, like
I have-
say your bay door and front door is open at X number of feet, we don't want to be louder than Y, and those things we still have to fill in so that,
Is that gonna be
We get
different
that
in a
balance.
commercial zone versus a residential though?
It-
Well,
Because
So one of the things I did like from this ordinance was that it used the measurement from where the complaint's coming from. So let me go back here, let me find it on my notes here. So it talks about the method of sound measurement. So it's going to have to be an actual calibrated testing tool.
which you guys have.
Yes. So the measurements of sound shall be taken from either the property line of the property from which the sound originates, but in no event less than 50 feet from the sound source where the sound is generated, and all measurements shall be taken toward the source of the sound.
So if your property line's right, if you got a little
So-
setback, you still have to go 50 feet. Property line or 50 feet, whichever is farther.
And then
50 feet from the stage, no less than 50 feet
No,
from
I
like
think
the
it's right.
band.
Property.
Or
Yeah. And so here's the next one. The property line nearest the sound source of a property occupied by a person who reports a violation of this chapter to the city, but in no event less than 50 feet from the sound source where the sound is generated, or a minimum of 50 feet from the sound source in the event the sound violation originates from a source where the property lines are not applicable. Yeah, a lot of lawyer language in there.
Yeah. Around 50
Because
feet. though, is
yeah,
what we
because
come
like
to.
ours, we own all of the land back behind us up until the railroad. So are you gonna go 50 feet from the
So-
railroad towards me?
It sounds like it would be at your property line,
Well,
if your property line is more than 50 feet away.
And just to be fair, I mean, using you, most of the complaints from the Crystal don't come from behind.
It's
From the front.
Like all the speakers face
mhm.
towards Porter's.
So where would you measure that then? From the property line of the front?
Yeah, 50 feet from the front.
I can say that
Basically,
I have
the
friends
Wall of Porters.
in Fredericksburg and they felt like that ordinance was suffocating for
Well,
live music.
there was an actual article I
Yeah,
sent
you
it
just
to.
sent it to me.
I
from
sent it to
Texas
Chris.
Monthly.
It said, shut that noise off or something like that. Texas Monthly. So
Austin did it too, and it was tough for musicians for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
but
normal volume may break the 85 decibels.
And that's really what our challenge is
Mhm.
is to, and which we haven't quite done yet, is to really define normal volume, you know, so that we could, if we had figure an average night, the next outdoor show you guys have,
Mhm.
try and make sure it gets measured.
From you to me, you're measuring 81 decibels.
well, the phones.
I know, but, and it's not a calibrated tool, but what
Yeah.
I'm saying is that at 65 decibels, theoretically, the neighbors hearing somebody talk on the back porch
Yeah.
are gonna be legally within their, you know.
Yeah, like I
It's
can.
average
My
marital stat.
neighbors probably live 200 yards away from mine,
Mhm.
and I can hear their conversations clear as day.
Mhm.
So then does that become an issue that somebody can come over and say,
So-
okay, chief, so you're getting a ticket because your neighbors hear you?
Yeah.
Having a conversation with your family.
Yeah. And so that a lot of that we need to make sure that that it's clear and understood. Because it can be really subjective. And I don't want it to be. I want it to be clear cut.
Yeah, that's our goal. And
I
I would
think-
like it to be clear cut where it's just a little bit quieter than you guys would love, but it's loud enough that you can live with, you know, so that
Right.
where
But are
everybody's
we
given a
gonna
little
take
bit.
into
but-
account like the weather? Because if it's
Right,
no clouds, it's crystal clear, everybody's gonna hear everything.
that's
So I
true.
mean, how is that? Hey, you know what? You had a concert on Saturday night and it happened to be clear and you went over to 85, but you had one when it was cloudy
Right.
and nothing and nobody heard.
Mhm.
So
The
I mean,
band was
it's,
twice as loud.
Well,
yeah,
Possibly.
the
or,
thing,
yeah, or
the
twice as
thing,
loud.
like we discussed the last time, was we had that one guy complaining he likes to sleep with his windows open at night. And unfortunately,
Well, and that's
And
where
that
at a
was
certain,
my solution to Kevin Fowler. I live at 3rd and A. and I could hear him quite crystal clear, but I closed one window and it went away.
yeah,
And I mean, that's getting into liberties. And that could be touchy.
yeah,
Didn't bother me.
yeah, I would enjoy that.
and well, and that's where that's our goal, is that everybody gives a little bit, but once we've got it,
Mhm.
then if somebody really, really hates hearing anything at all, well, they live in the world with other people, and that's just something they're gonna have to
Right.
learn how to negotiate. Yeah,
But I guess that's the thing too, is like, what's fair? Because
Exactly.
like Monica said, her definitions of her music are gonna be so much different than mine. And they're gonna be so much different than the blues.
Right.
Like, so what, how do we find an equal place
And-
that
and
is
so-
all fair for everybody?
And going back to some of the complaints, a lot has to do with what kind of music's being played.
Yes,
Mhm.
and that's not fair either, because that go light, that's into
Yeah,
your liberties. Like, if I wanna listen to it, I can, but if you don't, you don't have to.
We got shut down every Friday at Harry's for like a year and a half. And I don't know if that guy moved away or what, but they called to complain every night, every Friday night.
yeah, and so ideally, we'll find a spot where you can reliably have a worthwhile experience
Mhm.
at the place, and we take the edge off in the neighborhoods.
Right.
And
That's
and,
all
you know,
we're
a
really
lot of the
looking for.
community is, I would say the majority of the community is pretty just like,
Yeah,
they'll be off after a while, so.
Well, they go out on the back porch and have a couple extra beers and listen to it. It's-
And I'm sure people do that all the time, but behind the Christmas,
Yeah, I'm sure.
get their free concert.
Yeah, they do. One lady was over the fence hanging over and I was like, please like sit down somewhere.
Come on now, it's like $8. Come in.
So how many decibels is a train horn?
Oh,
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a,
Depends on which guy.
yeah.
Yes.
Try
So,
writing
like,
an ordinance.
I actually explained that, they're required before each intersection, three horn,
Mhm.
but sometimes one's 3 horns are a lot longer than the other.
Well, seem to last all the way across
Yeah.
town
Yeah.
at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
So Amy, do you know kind of what your next show or two
Park
are gonna
Row.
be or when? Because what I'm thinking is, if you can let Daryl know ahead of
It'll
time for
be
your next
Park Row,
one,
isn't it?
Yes, Bart Crow's coming
is he playing in or out?
out.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So if we can make sure that's on your calendar
I might be
and,
there.
and yeah,
Yeah,
so we're not to shut it down, but just to know, you
Yeah.
know, here's a professional performer
Mhm.
doing his thing on the outdoor stage, and here's those decibels.
right.
And then we'll just know, you know, at different distances, because this thing actually says 200 feet
Mhm.
as well. It's not 50. This is the draft that Chief Martin was working on. And so if we get those baselines, then we'll at least know
Right.
what we're talking about and what feels reasonable and doesn't.
And
Can
each
you
band
send that
brings
one to
their
me
own
again?
sound system?
Absolutely.
Hmm?
Each band brings their own sound system.
Usually,
Yeah.
like the bigger ones do. But yeah, they'll bring in their own sound crew and all that kind of
Which
stuff.
You
Yeah.
know, one of the things is when they're not singing and just yelling into the microphone.
Yeah,
That's
that's
that can
something,
be annoying.
Yeah.
right? And I think as a business owner, we pay a lot of money to have these bands come in. And I really hate having to walk up and say, hey, can you turn it down?
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean turn it down?
Mhm.
I have sound guys, I have bands. I'm like, got complaints. And he's like, then why are we here playing?
Right.
Mhm.
You know, what's the point? And I'm like, I'm sorry, you know, it's just, you're trying to have to backpedal. I'm sorry, you know, I brought you all this way out here in the middle of nowhere. You're putting on a great show, but turn it down.
Yeah. Well, and then
And you know, and that's one of the things that I was worried about. I mean, to consider ourselves as a music friendly
Right.
community.
And then you have the bands that, well, why do I want to go back? Because all you're going to do is tell me to keep turning it down and turning it down.
right.
So then, you know, you're losing out on revenue, you're losing out on great artists coming in.
Well, hopefully. Now, one thing that makes me think of is when Robert Alvarez was he was telling me about a DJ that was coming in, and I think it was at the Crystal, something he was hosting, but I might be wrong. But they were getting complaints, and the sound guy, who was from elsewhere and is used to dealing with noise ordinance, says, I have my decibel meter.
Mhm.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And but so if we can set that up front,
Mhm.
where you kind of
That'd be
know,
awesome.
where you know at the stage, this is the level, this is kind of the max we're
Mhm.
looking at. And that way in their sound check, you can
Say, hey,
can
this
set
is-
it and
yeah,
forget it. Yeah.
right.
And so that would be ideal, I would think. That way you're not having to interrupt them in any way.
Yeah.
Once they're doing their thing.
Because I mean, like I said, that's just a really hard thing. Hey, thanks
Yeah.
for coming this way, but turn it down. Like it's
It's great,
Oh, yeah.
everybody's dancing, but y'all.
Yeah, everybody's having a great time
Calm
singing
the
along, but
down.
turn it down.
But somebody who's not here, who didn't pay $25, $30 a ticket, doesn't like.
Right,
So-
pretty much.
Yeah.
is
So
what
the Catholic
happens.
Church is having this bazaar this year.
So then what happens with them?
Exactly.
Mhm.
And with them, with the mountain right behind them, and it goes
Oh,
all
Certainly
over town,
always has.
always.
And it's worth also.
And at one time, I remember, my boss called me and he told me, he goes, turn off the amplifiers. Because we're getting too many calls. And so that band was playing there with no amps. It was pretty, I don't know. You remember that? It was like one of our fall.
I don't remember anything.
Well, that's it. So
I know
that's
nothing.
another one. I doubt we'll actually have anything past council by the time that happens.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to record. And
Yeah.
just go, okay, that was at X, because what we're trying to avoid is rather than turn it down, turn it off, and go
Right.
home. You know, that's even worse.
Right.
Yeah.
Just buy all the sourpuss as a train ticket.
And that's what I said last time, but apparently that doesn't go over real well.
Yeah, we're being recorded, we can't say. I think Bart Crow's probably gonna be a good baseline,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because I think that, for the majority of us, we keep it below that, not because we're choosing to, just our venues are set up
Yeah.
differently. But I think that we need to be cognizant that Amy's got an outdoor stage, and
Yeah.
I'm assuming she spent about $250,000 on that stage. Plus, the blues stage.
And
Are
they're
they gonna
planning-
do an outside stage? They did decide.
Jake said they were
That's what I
planning
was-
on it, but we haven't heard anything since that, when we
That
met him
time.
earlier, yeah.
I think he was looking at putting in a flatbed.
So then if they do something like that and theirs is temporary, do they follow in the same rules or they do get their permit for their one outdoor stage?
Good question.
I would think, well, and we also have to decide what
What's permanent?
a
what's
permit
temporary?
means
Yeah,
even, because the blues is a music venue. I would assume that they would go through the nominal.
Well, they've got a big board
Formality.
too, so. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
well, we are now registered on the state of Texas as a,
As a music venue in that
Yes.
database. Great.
Yes.
You also already were, because I put you in there.
Oh, did you
should have
too?
been. Yeah.
yeah,
I've
no, it's
just said
official
to
now.
everybody. Good.
But it's, so we're a music venue too. So here's my example. So say we pull a permit and we're having this big event. So if people call and complain, are you just gonna tell them, hey, they have a permit, too bad? Like how,
I would think so.
Yeah.
To a point at
Okay.
least,
Have to go
within,
check it and verify it, but yeah.
we have to define what the permit gets you.
Well, and
Yeah.
and then I think you still have to probably have some restrictions as far as how high you can be.
right?
I mean, you can't.
Well, I'm not saying like
Yeah.
go crazy and
Yeah.
turn it up for 100,
Yeah.
but the permit is
Well,
that gonna
I
stop the
would say,
people?
allow
would,
them,
yeah.
allow them at that 85 decibels. I mean, if we're lowering it at night, then with a permit would allow them to go up to that 85
For
or not to
later, yeah.
exceed the 85.
Could we get a permit on a yearly basis?
Well, again, that's something that like Chris was saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. The music venue designation should get you that, I
Okay.
think.
Okay,
And then an event would apply on an annual
so an
basis.
event on top of that, but what consists
Well,
of
like-
an event?
Well, let's say, the Spirits of the West deal, if they
Mhm.
were gonna play later than they did, they could have gotten a permit when they closed the street. They also would get a permit for the music
Yeah.
up to, they would just let the APD know.
Okay,
In terms of Viva, since they're in music venues anyway, unless they go somewhere strange, they probably.
That's
wouldn't need it, but-
Mr. will show up.
That's a good point.
So if you have a designation, or you have a permit for a one-off event, you're proposing that we go to 85, and then if you're not a designation and do not have a permit, then you're at that 65
Yeah.
after 11.
Right, yeah. With those numbers being movable based on when we get our
okay.
benchmarks.
That's
Because
good.
ours usually start at 10:30. Because, the kids don't go out until then anyway. And I'm like, Jesus.
And that, I have a problem with that. because-
Yeah, so do I.
I'm old enough.
We start at 8, Daryl. But we're done by the time they're getting going.
Yeah, so that kind of that only gives 30 minutes if we do 11.
Right.
So that's kind of,
Well,
Don't be
yeah,
loud for
I-
30 minutes and turn it down.
yeah, I personally believe that weekends is a different ballpark than
Okay.
weeknights. It should be.
Right.
Yeah, especially for a music venue.
Well, you can draft the ordinance
We-
to rental too, yeah,
Mhm.
and then that should.
I mean, how many of us play until 2 though?
Yeah, I said, don't go crazy. I said,
Yeah, I don't think 2 is, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, because there's not,
Well, if you're going to 1:30 and somebody calls in at 1:30, I mean, you're gonna be done by 1:45 before anybody gets there anyway. So that's kind of like a built-in
Cushion,
leeway
yeah.
there. I think that's fair.
Okay, so we're clearly not ready for a formal recommendation to council, but we have some
steps.
steps. Any thoughts from you guys? Do you want to add?
Has council given us a deadline?
No.
No.
No, just Megan heard some specific complaints about some noise
And-
incidents. And so she said, let's get this back on the table.
And so, if we could talk about the Wasserman complaint
Oh.
that we heard. Gunslinger's got a directional speaker. Pointed out, I don't know if y'all have seen it. They're pointing that towards Holland.
So they got rid of the circle one?
Mhm.
Oh, good.
Yes, all it was a Alexa. And so I met with the Wassermans, they complained that day, and so I showed up, I met with them. And so they're closed to their business, and the music was clear in their business, inside the Wassermans. So I was like, I could understand the complaint.
Yeah.
And so then I met with the Howe family, and basically they just turned it down and everything's been resolved. And so they have basically a set level on where they're going to keep their music at. And it's still clear out towards Holland. And I explained to them, somebody was sitting at the railroad park, and they said that the music was too loud. And I had an officer go out there. Compared to the vehicles driving by and the train, I could not really find any difference. So I hate to. We're gonna have to get through past some of those complainants.
Yeah, well, and that seems like just the natural give and take, because as we discussed, the decibel levels were never going to be loud enough, because the problem was their immediate neighbor didn't like it, so they were never going to violate this. So,
But that problem's been resolved.
yeah,
All
great.
parties were happy, and no citations were issued, and it was all taken care of.
That's some great copping right there.
Yeah. I'm playing mediator. So,
They charge a lot of money.
right?
Okay, so then what I would propose then for our, between now and our next Music Advisory Board meeting is we'll try and get those benchmarks, and then have a few different ideas of some numbers that we plug into that table, and try and have I'll give Chief Lasoya this draft, and I'll get a copy of the Fredericksburg one from you, and we'll try and get at least a
Share
loose,
around.
yeah, language that everybody can
I'm
look
gonna
at.
reach out to Fisher PD and see how's it going for them.
Yeah, doesn't sound like anybody's happy, so that's perfect.
Right? And I don't want that either. I don't want that.
Yeah,
I don't want to be that cop.
yeah.
We don't want to force you either.
Right? Thank you.
Okay, so that's then, unless you guys have anything else to add, it doesn't take any particular action. I had it as an action item, but we have a plan of action. So the only other thing that we usually do at these meetings is kind of share what is happening musically. So, Andrew, what's going on?
Summer theater, the Your Good Man Charlie Brown opens in about 3 weekends, I believe, 4 weekends, and it's the second weekend of July, and it goes Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all at 8 p.m. and it's at the outdoor theater, and that's kind of it. And then I know
Are you doing musical direction or anything? I mean, what are you doing with that?
I'm just leading the music. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just leading the music, but we'll have the live band on stage. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing, the music for that. So it's been a lot of fun. It's gonna be a good show. Y'all should
And is
make
the
plans to
second
come.
show musical too? What's the second show?
Well, no, there's only one show this
Just
summer.
one show this summer? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
one show this summer. And then if I'm not mistaken, I think for the 4th of July celebrations of Alpine, the Big Bend Community Band is performing at Coconut for the Big Bend, for the Alpine 4th of July celebration.
Right.
And my children's chorus is going to sing at the 4th of July celebration with the Big Bend Community Band. Chuck Wilson leads the Big Bend Community Band, so he would have more information about that. So as of now, it's the only thing I can think of what's happening over the summer, especially with classical music and artsy music.
Right.
It's kind of cool though that we hired professional actors to come and play the summer.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
it's gonna be, yeah, the singers are amazing. I mean, we're getting singers from New York City and Los Angeles, and they are very impressive. Not to say that our students are not, our students are great and stuff, but to have these students, it's pretty phenomenal. And it's really interesting to have these students, these musicians, you know, Broadway musicians and you know, wanting to go that route to come here to West Texas and go, oh, this is different. You know, I've never been so dehydrated in my life, you know, this is the dry weather and this and that. And so they, but they seem to be enjoying it. They're, yeah, it's like 6 of them all from all around the US, and they're taking tours and they're trying to soak up as much West Texas stuff as they can. I think they went to the blues, the railroad blues, and they said they loved it, and they're trying to hit up all as many bars and places to hang out. So it's, yes, if you hear a New York accent, that's them.
Cool. Neil, what are you doing?
Well,
How was Spicewood?
Spicewood was wonderful. Would love to have a decibel check on that because it didn't seem like we were very loud on stage, but my parents said it was really loud. Of course, they're old. But I had a couple references from further off in the crowd who aren't old who said it was pretty loud, but it's kind of a long concrete room.
Yeah.
You know, that tends to bounce around and some tables get dumped on. I remember playing acoustic at the Edelweiss 20-something years ago. No amps, no nothing. This table to our left couldn't hear a word we were saying. This table to our right in front of the register would ask us to turn down every 15 minutes. And if they swap tables, the next people would say, y'all are so loud. It was just like the room just takes and goes whoosh right there, which is some of what we're dealing with in
Right.
the mountains, you know.
And unpredictable with weather, et cetera. Yeah.
I remember hearing bands at Harry's from 11th Street and so many moons ago. I mean, just crystal clear, like they were in your backyard. It was crazy.
But I like that. I mean, I live off of 2nd and East Nations, and I like to go out into my patio, and it's just like, oh, that's wonderful to hear. I could hear the music
there's
from
things
Crystal and
But you're cool.
well, yeah, I just think it makes the city alive.
Yeah.
And I like a city that's alive. I don't like a city that's, I mean, you know, having a silent city has its benefits in itself, but to hear music constantly, I mean, that's what I love, and I want that more for my city.
I agree with you.
You know, again, referencing on Fredericksburg, that's one of the cool things, just walking down the streets and having all these different type of people just playing music and little concerts and in the back of it's neat.
Every beer garden's got something
Yeah.
different. It's cool. Yes.
What's coming up for you? Going to Sanderson soon?
I'm done in Sanderson
yeah?
for a little while, but I think he's headed there soon. Ross is playing there. I'm gonna go play bass in Cisco on Saturday and then take a long dry break. I've got a few things down in Terlingua, but other than that, we're just waiting on Biba.
Okay. Yeah, us too.
Speaking of New York accents, you know the difference between khakis in New York and khakis in Texas?
I don't.
In Texas, they're shorts. And in New York, they start your car.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So Amy, besides Bart Crow, what do you guys? what's
We
coming up?
have bands coming for the week of Viva too. We start Thursday and we're trying to, I know last year we, or a couple of years, right before COVID, we actually tried to get high school kids to come and play so their parents would come and watch and, you know, that kind of thing, because I like the high school kids to come and do something. So we tried to get, hey, you have a band? They're like, yeah, we do. Come on, play, bring your parents, come during the day. So, you know, we're trying to do that again this year to bring in
Yeah,
kids.
cool.
Oh,
David, is that you?
Yeah,
What's up?
nothing, apparently, nothing is up, David.
Okay.
Speaking of the high school, Alpine High just got their new band director. So we're really excited about that as well. So hopefully she'll be coming in soon. She's an alumni of Ross, and so we're very excited to have a new band director in the area who will be, putting some more music out into the world and marching band and this and that. So I'm really excited about the new band director coming to Alpine.
Anything notable at the Gringo other than the usual?
We hired a
nights?
regular music manager.
That's right,
Donnie
Donnie.
Basin is handling, yes, we are very excited. It had just gotten to be, just complicated between health and, us being back and forth. So Donnie is now the point of contact for all the musicians, and he handles all the bookings, and he puts together the advertisements, and it has made our life a whole heck of a lot easier. Because what I've discovered is that musicians have more respect for other musicians when it comes to this is how many nights you get, this is what we pay, this is how this is going to work, than just one of my girls behind the bar. So it's working out really well. Donnie is super dedicated. Of course, he's tremendously talented. But he will be like the central repository of all the contact information for all the bands.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, it's great.
Yeah, well, I'll be getting with him.
Please do.
Yeah, for sure. Ross, besides Sanderson, what's up with you?
I got a call from El Capitan in,
Yeah, I sent them to you.
oh, yeah?
They didn't tell you that? Yeah.
Okay, I'll go.
All right.
Van Horn,
Huh?
Van Horn,
Yeah,
yeah, Van Horn.
and then play Saturday.
Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, Chris.
we're an official venue for Viva. Yeah.
We are not.
Earth the moon. Chris, are you there?
Yeah, hey, David.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I've been playing with this unmute button and I'm not very technically adept, so I guess I wasn't getting through.
Right, but now you are. So
okay.
what
All
do
right.
you have to share beyond,
No.
other than the special all music issue of the Big Bend Gazette that's out right now?
Yeah, I hope you've all seen it. I haven't. Listen, I mean, most of you know that I put together this music roundup for the Big Bend Gazette and otherwise. And it's it's a sort of complicated process of trying to assemble information from various venues about what's coming up. And often I have to sort of search things out, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. I want to compliment Lynette or Monica now, who's there for usually providing information well in advance, which I can get onto the site. And, same with you, Neil. But I'm having trouble with a whole lot of other venues, particularly Railroad Blues and sometimes Old Crystal. So I'd like to sort of make the plea that when you have a concert coming up or a performance coming up in advance, if you would let me know by either sending me a message on Facebook or through my email, what that performer, who that performer or group is, the date that they're playing, the time that they're playing, etc. I can get it onto the roundup. So that in general. One other very specific thing, though, and I've had a couple of complaints about this before, and they're valid complaints, and that is people asking me why aren't Sul Ross performances listed.
Right, I'll get you his email.
So Ross performances, what happened?
So David, hang on just a second. I'm
Yeah,
gonna fill
sure.
Andrew in because he's gonna be a good conduit for Soul Ross information. So David is the music editor for the Big Bend Gazette, and he compiles a live music calendar about 6 weeks out or as far out as he can get. And he posts it on Facebook. It prints in the Gazette, but it's most accessible on Facebook. He sends it to me, and that's his information that I'm emailing out. And so if we can include, in fact, I'll give you his email right now.
All right.
So proceed, David. Now,
Yeah, so if I could, if I could get more clarity on the performances that go on at Soul Ross, the music performances that go on at Soul Ross, I mean, it would be really helpful. I'd like to get them on the calendar. People would like to see them on the calendar, obviously. The other thing that's often neglected on my calendar are community performances, a community band, etc. I don't usually hear about those things, and I'm not quite sure where I would get the information for that. So if anybody has any suggestions on that score, I would appreciate it. Of course, I like to keep the the list as current as can be, and I really have to rely on all you folks to help me do that.
Sure, David, I will send you all the information from Sil Ross and from the community stuff, because I do the choral, and then Chuck Wilson does the band, and Chuck Wilson and I are well connected. And then I do the children's as well. So I will start emailing you once we get the calendars solidified. And I also send you stuff about the theater as well. So the Sil Ross Theater and what the Sil Ross Theater will be doing. I'll be in communication with Carolyn and Ross, and we'll make sure we get you all that stuff.
That would be very helpful, and I think the audience who reads this would very much appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. So Cindy, how are things going?
They're going. We're getting things, trying to get everything geared up for October.
So for anybody who doesn't know, Cindy started the Big Bend Bluegrass Association and is getting ready for the first ever Big Bend Bluegrass Festival.
Yeah, we're excited about that. We have our early ticket sales. We have that set up. We have people already making reservations and things like that to come in. Just trying to get everything wrapped up, and just trying to think of everything I need to get done before October.
Yeah.
But it's coming along. We're pretty excited about it, and we're still doing our monthly jams.
And how was Saturday?
It was good. We actually had a couple from Johnson City stop by, and some other folks I didn't get to meet, but they stopped and listened. Last month, we had a couple from Bernie come in, and they stayed at the Inload. So, I post the jams on social media to other groups that are bluegrass related and music related. And, so we're getting people trickling in here and there.
Where does it take place?
We started out at the park. Are you talking about the jams?
Mhm.
Yeah, at the park.
Coconut,
Typically at the park. This last Saturday, because of the event at the park, we had it at the Alpine Visitor Center.
And where's your festival going to be?
At the Civic Center.
Do you have flyers already?
I do have some. I have some information cards put together, and I'll be getting bigger posters and flyers put together.
I'll put some up at the bar if you'll bring them by.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure we all will. Yes, ma'am. So, yeah, it's come on. We're pretty excited.
All right. What's the word, Rick? You're always just playing a lot.
Well, I have 2 funerals on Friday and 1 on Saturday.
Wow.
That kind of music,
Yeah,
which is still music.
no doubt.
However, I think it's a great age to be a musician in Alpine right now, or the Tri-County actually. There's so many, we have the El Gringos, our mainstay on Thursdays, and from that has just blossomed a lot of other stuff. And I like the interaction between all the different places from Marathon. Some of those guys come to the bluegrass group, and it's really exciting. I think it's a good post-pandemic golden age of music here now.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's been nice to see these big groups, because I think that like the gospel group, the old rugged choir kind of made some of that Marathon Alpine connection. So Ray Santos is coming over and playing accordion at the farmer's market and things like that. So that's really, really sweet. So for my part, the Swifts we just had our last show till Viva. I'm hoping to have a digital single out in the next couple of weeks. And then we're gonna do one every couple of months, I think, for a while, because we're recording with Ted down south. And we don't get there very often, so we're not gonna have an album anytime soon, so we might as well share what we got as we get it. So that's what we're doing. Yeah.
I would like to recognize David on his Big Bend Gazette and the calendar. Thank you, David.
Yeah,
I
and
thanked you in person before, but just to make it official, he's been great putting dates out and.
I thought the
he's
same
very,
thing
very
too.
Thank you, Rick.
expensive.
Yeah, and what you were talking about, that golden age, it's like we get that snapshot. We don't necessarily realize quite how much is going on until we get that full list from David.
Right, yeah, exactly. And also I'd also like to welcome Alpine Wine to
Yeah,
the music scene.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of local acts going every weekend, so I'd like to recognize them as well.
absolutely. So anything else anybody wants to shout out or mention? And if not, let's look at the calendar.
Can we start inviting the Jesus people up? Can you get them on your list?
Jesus Brewing
Mhm.
guy, sure.
Is there anything any of the rest of us need to do on the decibel thing? Can we help in any way?
I'm gonna, if ever y'all want to come by and just, if y'all have something going on that you want to use a decibel meter, just holler at me. Sure, everybody has my contact
Do
information.
we know if any of these complaints have been, and none of them have happened for like the marching band? You know, they do marching band just like Monday nights. Nothing has ever been said about Monday nights.
No.
All right,
Mm.
well, that's great. And the marching, yeah, because that's when usually they do, they have the rehearsals for
Start doing the
Alpine.
death metal marching band.
I tell you what, who knows what this new band director will do.
You know, we get complaints on, it's when they leave the lights on.
Oh, yeah.
at night.
What about the Carillon at Sul Ross State University, or the national anthem gets played at 8 in.m. and 5 p.m.? Is that any complaint?
I didn't even know they were doing
They
that.
do that, yeah. You know, President Gallego, former President Gallego, that's what he was saying. You can hear I could go outside and be like, oh, national anthem. So,
There you go.
8 o'clock in the morning. I'm glad nobody's complaining about that stuff. I was kind of curious if that was.
No, I
brought
actually, on Monday mornings, that's one of the first things I do is I have dispatch pulled in the noise complaints. And it's usually residents. So residents on residents. Yeah.
More run an impact gun in the morning. We'll see what happens.
And you know, surprisingly, I would think that there would be more complaints like that. Ryan, it's been a long time since Ryan Kincaid used to complain all the time, but he not anymore. So.
Were there any complaints about the festival over the weekend?
No,
No.
I was expecting them and I didn't.
I complained that it was too hot.
Yeah, I did too.
Chief, you need to do something about that.
Stop.
The chili on
Yeah.
the chili and it was too hot too.
I think we can do an ordinance about the weather faster than we can
Oh,
about the
yeah.
train.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you guys feel about when you'd like to get back together? You want to do it next month in August? Do you have a feeling preference?
Mondays are usually easier for me because they're after I've been here for a weekend, but
Okay.
whatever's good for everybody else,
My
I
life
will
goes
do my best to make work.
back to normal on like the 21st
Of July?
of July.
Well, you want to let's look at after Viva?
That
Can we
would
do it
be-
the Monday
that
after
would be
Viva?
August.
Certainly, we're all gonna be still in town.
Well,
I'm
and I guess by
considering
5:30
that.
we'll
That's
be
not
away.
fair.
How about the Monday after Viva?
On
And
the
that will
8th?
give Neil a week to sleep in.
I won't be here.
The 8th of
Okay.
August. Wait,
He
are we looking
can
at
get
August?
up to be
We're
at
in
a
August.
meeting by 5:30 on Monday. Come on, Neil.
I'll still be
August-
trying to
August
figure
1st?
out where my base
August
is.
1st.
Amy, will you be in?
I
August
can do
1st?
August 1st, yeah.
Is that right,
Okay.
Chris? August
Yeah,
1st?
well, that's what we'll,
I
That's
can't
what-
do August 1st.
okay.
Yeah, I don't get back until the 12th of August.
So it's either the 1st or what about 15th for you, Amy?
No, I'm in Sturgis.
Okay.
We go
Well,
for the
then
whole 10
we will
days.
tentatively say August 1st to just see if we can get.
Do you have other
get a
members that
quorum.
didn't show up?
Yes, there are 3
Oh, cool.
that told me they couldn't come.
What about the Wednesday before Viva?
Oh, that's a good idea.
That works for
We
me.
should all be in town.
Yeah,
When is Viva again?
The 28th
27th
through the
through
31st.
Well, let's
Oh,
actually,
27th?
it starts on the 27th.
Oh,
Down
27th.
south.
Okay, what about
And let's see, the Tuesday?
Tuesday, the
Tuesday, the
26th?
26th.
July
Is there
26th?
a city council meeting?
That's the question. I gotta check, let's see, the city calendar.
There's one of the 21st.
There shouldn't be a
Maybe
council
we do
meeting,
that
would be,
Monday.
There shouldn't be a city council meeting according
Yeah.
to the calendar.
yeah, a third of the time Geo tells me, oh, we have a thing that we can't do it whatever day, so
I mean, we can do it at my place too, and you can set up your recording thing.
I would just love having.
Can you have these nice microphones hanging from your ceiling too?
I got mine.
Okay, yeah, there's nothing on the calendar right now for the 26th, so that's what we'll say until we're told different.
Okay.
Can I be zoomed in?
You can't, absolutely, you can zoom in. We just have to have at least 4 in person. Okay, so then we're adjourned. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys. 3, 4.
That's
music
right.
community and
Been staring